All right, section 2.2 deals with linear equations. Probably the first thing that we need to talk about is the fact that a linear equation means that it graphs a line. Now, there's different ways to present this equation, and the first way that we're going to talk about is what we call standard form of the line, and it's ax plus by is equal to c. There's restrictions on this. The a, right here at the front, cannot be negative, and the a, b, and c cannot be a decimal, and it can't be a fraction. So you'll have to multiply through to get rid of those if that's the form that you have it in. So if I take this and it says write each equation in standard form, I have to rearrange this equation. I have to get the x and the y on the same side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the 5x, and because your ax is in the front, I'm going to have to put that in the front. So I have 5x plus y equals 6. The a is not negative, and the a, the b, and the c are not a decimal, and they're not a fraction. So this is my correct answer. This is this equation in standard form. These are a little more tedious here. This one, I have the x on one side. I need to bring the y over, so I have 2/7 x minus 2y equals 5. But now if you'll notice, my a is in fraction form, so I want to multiply through to get rid of that. So I multiply by 7, because if I multiply and divide by the same number, I'm going to get rid of my fraction. So I have a 2x, then I multiply by the negative 2, so negative 14 is equal to 35. Check to make sure the a is positive, and the a, the b, and the c are not decimals and not fractions. This one is already in standard form because the x and the y are on the same side, and the number without the x and y is on the other side. There's no decimals and there's no fractions. All right, so now you try a few. You're going to put these these equations in standard form. So try them, then come back to the video and check your answers. This one, I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to go ahead and subtract my y. So that's going to give me a negative y, or negative x plus y. I'm subtracting the x, not the y, I'm sorry, is equal to 3. But I have to multiply through to get rid of the negative on the a. So I multiply everything through by a negative 1, which is going to give me x plus negative y equals negative 3. And that would be in standard form. This one, I'm going to subtract the 4x, but then I have to multiply through to get rid of that 3 on the bottom, because I can't have a fraction. So I multiply everything by 3. I'll go ahead and put it over here. So this means results in. So I have y minus 12x equals 15, but I still have a problem because my x is supposed to be in the front. So I'd have to rearrange it. Negative 12x plus y equals 15. Then I multiply through to get rid of my negative. So I have 12x minus y equals negative 15. Now it's in standard form. This one is already in standard form, so there's nothing you can do to that. All right, so looking to see whether we recognize a linear equation, some of the rules for a linear equation is that the x or the y cannot be squared or cubed. It can't have a power to it. It cannot be, x or y cannot be underneath a fraction, and it cannot be underneath a square root. So going through with this is a yes, that's a linear equation. This is a yes. This is going to be a horizontal line through 5. This is a yes, that's going to be a vertical line through 3. This is a no because the x is squared. This is also a no because the x is multiplied by the y, and that cannot be the case with a linear equation or an equation that graphs a line. The x is on the bottom of a fraction, so that's not a linear equation. And over here, if you look close, that's a square root, And I told you that the x or the y cannot be underneath the square root. So that's not a linear equation. All right. When you first learned how to graph, after you learned how to plug in using a table, you learned how to graph using the x and the y intercept. Try and get that a little bit straighter so that it focuses. But that gives me a shadow, but I guess you can see through that. Okay, to get the x-intercept, you're talking about where it crosses the x-axis. So anywhere on here, you know that the y value, if I had a point there, the y value would be 0. So the first thing I do is let y equal 0 in my equation. So I've got 3x minus 3, or 5x, minus 3 times 0 equals 15. So I have 5x equals 15, or x equals 3. That means it crosses the x-axis at 3. Then I want to find my y-intercept. That means where it crosses the y-axis. So the x would be equal to 0. You did this last year, hopefully. So now I plug in the x value of 0. So I have 5 times 0 minus 3y equals 15. So I have negative 3y equals 15. And when I divide, I get y is equal to negative 5. So there's my y-intercept. As long as I have 2 points, I can draw my line. So that is the line that is represented by that equation, solving using the x and the y-intercepts. Okay, now you try one, pause the video, and then come back to it. All right, to find the x-intercept, remember you let the y equal 0. So you plug in 0 for that equation right there. So I have 5x plus 2 times 0 equals 10. 5x equals 10. So x equals 2. So that's where it crosses the x-axis. The y-intercept, I'm going to let x equal 2, or x equals 0. Okay, so I plug in 5 times 0 plus 2y equals 10. So 2y equals 10, or y equals 5. So I'm going to go up to 5 on my y-axis. And that's going to be the line represented by that equation using the x and the y-intercept. All right, your homework on this is page 77, 18 through 38 even.